Dr. Peter Kuznick, historian and co-author of Untold History of the United States. Hi there, thanks for your time. So we just heard Heather Newitt there saying, well, no, she hasn't actually, or they haven't actually seen the proof there. They're taking the UK's word for it. This kind of whatever happened to innocent till proven guilty, it doesn't seem to be working for the US, considering what's happened. What do you think about that and her statement?
I think there's been a very strange rush to judgment since the beginning of this episode, since the poisoning on March 4th. The Brits immediately came out accusing Russia of being behind it. And the thing that struck me as so strange about it was they said Russia was very likely the country that's responsible. It seems that if you're going to make these kinds of accusations, you've got to be more certain than something is likely. So yeah, I agree that the evidence seems to point to Russia, but that doesn't mean that it is absolutely certain in any ironclad sense that Russia was the perpetrator. And so given the stakes and given especially how tense the world is at this point, it seems to me a reckless rush to judgment.
Oh.
When the United States admits that it doesn't have ironclad proof, you know, then we're trusting the British, who acted so precipitously, the same British who were pushing, well, as we know, I mean, these intelligence agencies get things wrong.
Can the history books offer us anything? Say you're
a history of getting these things wrong.
Yeah, you're an historian. Can the history books tell us anything here? What is this push about? What's it about? Everyone's on side seems the US and most of Europe, 3/4 of it, and Britain all on side together here, unified. What's the end game?
It's part of a much bigger scenario that's taking place. You know, some people refer to it as a new Cold War, but in some ways it's more dangerous than the old Cold War. At least in retrospect, we survived the old Cold War. There's no guarantees we're going to survive this new one. So the tensions have been ratcheted up on both sides. And the thing is, as an historian, you look at it, we've got one narrative coming out of the West, and you've got a completely different narrative coming out of Russia. And much of the rest of the world. And they're just as if we exist in parallel universes.
Yeah.
And this is another instance of this. If Russia is responsible, then this is quite serious and steps need to be taken. But, you know, there's a certain hypocrisy involved. You think of how serious this is and the response to this compared to how serious it was when the United States and Britain and the others invaded Iraq. Did all these European countries stand up and expel American diplomats for an invasion of Iraq that was far more serious? Of course not. You know, this is part of a Cold War positioning with the West standing up against Russia and Russia responding. But I think that if we're going to take such strong action, we need firm proof and we need to begin presenting some of this evidence to the public.
Yeah.
You know, the people are supposed to go along passively with this kind of measure. In Britain, you look at what Jeremy Corbyn has said, and Corbyn has remained skeptical. He's not saying that Russia didn't do it. He's saying, why don't they share some of this kind of intelligence, which they claim that they have?
Peter Kuznick, historian and co-author of the Untold History of the United States. I'm sure many people out there that would agree with your sentiment. Thank you for being on the programme.